Hey everyone, welcome back. Pretty cool one, Arma Hobby 172nd Hurricane Mk.IIb. In this case, it's the eastern front, which is definitely something different. I've no idea if this is a dog or a horse on it, but it looks pretty cool. So there's the box. I have to say the standards are really lifting these days. I'm doing the one in the rear. There's, I think, half a dozen schemes there. So yeah, it's a really nice package. It's dual combo, however they call it. And I've done the first one. You can see that, I think from late last year, I did the winter scheme. This one, we're doing the Karelian Front Air Force 609th Fighter Aviation Regiment, USSR, April 1942. There is some small modifications, so you can see here using that chisel blade just to, take off those, whatever they are. I'm not going to profess to know exactly what they are. Other than that, there's not too much hacking involved. Like I say, the standard of these kits is way beyond what, well, even just 10, 20 years ago. It's really quite remarkable. I'm just coming back in and filling some of that in with a bit of Humbrol putty, moisten it, and away we go. No dramas there at all. I can't even think of any fit problems, and this, I've sort of harped on about this a bit recently, where the CAD CAM is really getting to that point where it's just almost click and fit, or what's the old Tamiya one, shake and bake. In that sense, it's interesting that Tamiya was sort of the gold standard for years, but even small startup companies are using the technology available or are really coming up with quite amazing products across the board. In this case, decals going on. Again, that's part of that, I think, software design compared to, if you think, back in the olden days, all of this was, saying like decal sheets, I guess, were done in large format and then scaled down and so on. So it was very different production all through, really up till maybe 20 years ago. But 20 years ago, it was too expensive for even small companies to do, and probably the larger ones, really. So I've used a resin seat here. There is some resin in the box. A lot of it's very small, but yeah, it's pretty well done, as you can see there. So I come over with silver, and then I went over with the actual decals. Rather than trying to hand paint that stuff, I just added the decals on top of the resin belt. In that case, I've also added some decal softener just to get it all to sit. Some of this I had started last year. You haven't missed much. I did a bit of scratch building on the undercarriage. If you look at a Hurricane, there's a main vent pipe goes right down the guts of the aircraft. I also added the torsion bars and a couple bits and pieces in there. Obviously not functional, but it does just add a little bit more happening. That gun camera also comes off. I don't think I've shown it in the video itself, but it definitely is not something that stays. I'd say it's a little bit fiddly getting the cockpit itself into the fuselage here. The interesting thing is it's almost designed in a more similar way to the real plane, so that's kind of neat in its own way. You can see here it goes together really nice. No problems at all. I think one of the interesting things with a lot of these newer kits, the biggest problems are normally user error rather than the kits themselves. I'm not saying they're all perfect and it's all milk and honey out there, but for years everyone joked about, say, shake and bake, like I said with Tamiya. And there was always the old Airfix crowd, like, who, that's not real modeling and so on. But, well, even Airfix is really in that same zone. Like, I think you can see my Buccaneer, I talk about that. Just the standards that have, encompassed the entire industry over the last 10 years. Definitely huge change. If you have any other examples, let me know, but It's a while since I've seen a crappy kit, so yeah, do let me know if you have come across any. I'm struggling to think. I think the last really bad kit I did was maybe 10 years ago. Oh no, actually, sorry, I did do the Academy F14, and that was a bit of a dog, the old one. Before that, I think it was the old Airfix Bristol Blenheim. That was nasty. And there was the Tamiya Harrier is a shocker if you've ever done that. Definitely in the comments, let me know if you've come across some of those real dogs of kits. They're still out there, but I just I haven't accidentally come across one in a while. You can see there what I was doing was just hand brushing some of that cockpit green. I think it's just British Standard green. I'm not always rushing to grab the airbrush if I don't have to. Something like that, it doesn't make sense. The scheme here, it is worth paying attention to it if you do plan to do it, because I almost snagged myself on this one in the sense that a quick glance at the plan or the guide, and you think it's a two-tone scheme. It's actually a three-tone scheme. There's a darker grey underneath, then on the surface is a light grey, dark green and dark grey. The dark grey is minimal, but there is definitely some parts there on each wing and so on. So just pay attention to that. The other nice thing about these kits, they do come with the masking. That just saves a lot of trouble, especially on some of these older model planes like a 109 or a bomber or whatever. I don't think I'd bother trying to hand mask them anymore, especially not at 1/72. It's not worth it. The Arma ones, they're pre-cut. Never understood that about Tamiya, why you have to still cut them. It almost makes it as easy to cut your own at that point. Masking, this was pretty heavy duty masking, a couple layers. Like I said, it is a tricolour scheme. So you can see there the dark grey on the outboard side of the wings. I think like most of this, it's just take your time, be patient. I do think lacquers do help with doing masking, but the other big trick I've learned and been pointed out to me a few times in the comments and makes a huge difference. Once you put your masking down, go over clear coat at first. It makes a huge difference, solves some problems. In this case, I think it was nearly all good. There was one or two where there was a little bit of bleed through. Again, not a huge drama because you can just come back over, mask it, some light airbrushing, nearly always fixed. I think that's one of the things that I, again, harp on about, that you don't have to be super paranoid. You make a mistake, it's not a big deal normally to fix it up. So don't get into that, you got to throw it away. I think that's actually the worst mentality. There's plenty of kits that I've kind of gone, well, wasn't my best work, or that one was pretty sweet. But I think the absolute worst mistake would be if you chuck it in the bin. You don't finish. You're not going to learn anything from that. That's just my words of wisdom at this point. The undercarriage on this is really nice as well. Again, like some of those, I'm old enough to remember when what is it, those classic planes that they sell now, the classic kits and heritage kits and stuff. I can actually remember when they were real, and things like undercarriages and stuff were just absolute dogs. So again, not seeing any of that. The wheel masks, they come in the box. So yeah, these Arma Hobby kits, I haven't come across a bad one at all. Not once yet. I think they're also good value. I can't remember what I paid. It was a year ago, like $70. But in the box, it come with resin. So there was resin guns, parts, cockpit instrumentation, what else? Seats, harnesses. So 2 planes for what, $70, $80, whatever it was. is actually really good value. And like I say, you even get things like the masks thrown in. Here's the decals. This is always the fun bit for me. And this one, I have to admit, I'm not big on the Eastern Front. I knew the, what would I say, high level idea of what had happened there and so on. But as I've learnt more over the last year or so, last couple of years, I have made a bit more of an effort to catch up on the Eastern Front. That was just insane. I think it was the largest air battles, largest tank battles, absolutely brutal. I mean, I was really quite biased in truth, very much, what would I say, British influenced in that sense, which is why I got this sweet soft spot for things like Hurricanes and Spitfires. I can't ever really get away from that. But even the Hurricane, actually, I'm kind of ranting a bit now, but the Hurricane seemed to go out of fashion for a good 10, 20 years, and I've noticed a few of them popping up again. Interestingly, popping up with the Eastern European manufacturers. And yeah, maybe they're a bit more nostalgic in that way. When I was a boy, well, back when I was a boy, yeah, what would I say? Like early 80s, late 70s, I think Hurricanes and stuff were everywhere. Like, at least from my memory, or probably my parents making me get them. I wouldn't have been allowed to buy a 109 when I was 8 years old, even if I wanted to. So there's the dog and the horse going on. But yeah, I just have noticed, or at least maybe imagined, that Hurricanes seem a bit more in vogue. Here we are coming on to some of the weathering. I'm using these Life Color, what would I say? Yeah, weathering paints. They're acrylic. I'm trying to give it at least a used in the field look. So first thing is just a light spray of dust. And interestingly, what I have learned is if I almost hold the plane as if it's in a wind tunnel and spray that way, I think that gives almost a natural effect. I'm not going for any of that crazy weathering. I actually don't even like that, but I do like the toned down, like a little layer of dust and so on. I think just it makes it look realistic. I mean, it wasn't even like in the real world that these come out of as soon as they come off the factory floor, really, they're out in the elements and stuff. So I'm pretty sure by the time they got to Russia or wherever it was, anywhere, Far East or whatever for that matter, Australia and so on, they were not going to be looking super shiny and polished. So that's where it's at that point. Now I'm going to come over with just some oils. That's my go-to. I can't remember where I come across originally, but Starship Filth, it's not black, but it is a kind of nice greasy sort of color. I'm using a big old broad brush. I think that gives a better effect than if you use a small brush, and then really just, I don't know, I guess trying to mimic that wind pattern. So there you can see that's with some oil on it. I'm just coming over now to do some panel liner. The Tamiya one I've had for years. It's just one of those easy ones. Comes out of the drawer and it's good to go. It's easy enough to use some white spirit and oil paints. Do it yourself, but sometimes, yeah, pre-made's always handy. I'm just really dabbing on some silver now just to show some wear. In that sense, I also come back with the cotton bud or Q-tip, wherever you're from, just to pull off and almost give it a scratchy effect. So you can see there how some of that's come together. Last parts that I'm onto is some of the antenna wire. I'm using, I can't remember, it's like spiderweb, this stuff. I really got to get something a bit better because I find it a pain in the ass, to be honest. and it's so thin that it's hard to even see when it's on the shelf. In a little biplane that's coming up next week, I actually used some fishing braid, which is still thin. So that's where it's at. that's plain. Really nice kit. I do hope you've enjoyed it. There's nothing at all that I can fault at all with these Arma Hobby so far. If you've had problems, definitely let me know, and do let me know if you've had any experiences with real dogs lately. But I can't say I have. I've really maybe just had a good run, but again, really nice kit. This was a combo, 2 for the price of 1, 2 Hurricanes. Can't argue with that. Eastern front, you got resin, mask, everything, $80. So very sweet, highly recommended. I'll see you in the next one, which is a Royal Aircraft Factory BA2C, a biplane. So thank you again. Best of luck with your modeling, and look forward to hearing from you in the comments. Bye for now.